Hey guys, welcome back to another Destiny 2 video. Today's video is the first Warlock build of Witch Queen, and it's using Void 3.0, and it's something that I am really excited to show you guys. From the background gameplay, you can see it's more or less the same deal as before, where we are using our abilities near constantly, except with this time we're taking advantage of some new weaponry that is just absolutely mind-blowing, and the options for this are actually really creative. So if you have something you want to use for boss damage, you can use that with this build. If you want to just do standard ad clear just for running the game and strikes and stuff, you can use that too. This build is incredibly versatile and definitely a favorite of mine among Warlocks. But before we get into it, be sure to like and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content like this, and let me know what you think of this build down below, as well as any future suggestions for other videos. Again, I'm still working on builds for both Titan, Warlock, and Hunter as well. Those will all be coming very soon, so stay tuned. Jumping right into the build then for today, again, we are on Void 3.0. I'm personally using the Cataclysm Nova Bomb, however, you can use literally any other super, it works just as well, and everything will be benefiting the exact same. I'm also rocking the Suppressor Grenade. Although this isn't necessarily my favorite grenade to use in PvE, it does have its utility, especially this season, with not only the weakening effects provided intrinsically with the Void 3.0 subclass, but also with the other suppression-based effect mods that we have actually running in the background. I'm also using Feed the Void, which essentially grants us Devour anytime we defeat a target with our abilities, and then also Child of the Old Gods, which is one of my favorite parts of the entire game with Void 3.0. Essentially, casting our Rift creates this Void Soul that then seeks out on damage, and whenever it actually attaches to targets, it drains them and grants you grenade and melee energy, and also health if you're running an Empowering Rift. As far as our aspects, I'm also using Echo of Expulsion, which essentially makes anything defeated by our Void abilities explode. I'm using Echo of Stability as well. When we defeat targets with our grenade, it grants us volatile rounds to our Void weapons. Echo of Undermining, which makes our Void grenades weaken targets, and Echo of Starvation, which picking up an orb of power grants us Devour. Onto our mods, and the exotic helmet for today is Nezrak's Sin. Essentially, Nezrak uses Abyssal Extractors, which provides us an increased ability regen rate across the board anytime that we get Void-based damage kills. And this is with our abilities, this can be with our super, it can be with any Void-based weapon. We're also rocking Reaping Wellmaker, which after activating our class ability, which in this case is our Rift, our next final weapon blow will spawn a Void Well. I'm also rocking Dynamo just to give us increased super regen whenever we're actually using our Rift. And realistically, if you wanted to as well, we could also use a Harmonic Siphon mod, which would grant you the chance of dropping an Orb of Power upon getting a kill with a weapon matching the damage class of your subclass, in this case Void. Onto our gauntlets, we're using Seeking Wells, where elemental wells that we create will move across the ground towards us and other players. This is extremely interesting because it enables us to have a well or rift dominant playstyle, where we can essentially cast our rift, receive a bunch of benefits, and then never have to leave it. This is why if you don't want to rock Nezrak's Sin, for example, you could definitely use a different aspect mod and use Secant Filaments, which still grants you Devour with your Empowering Rift, because you can still benefit from staying in your rift with that as a whole, and both playstyles really enable you to kind of hunker down in whatever rift you want to actually use and receive benefits from it still. We're also using Momentum Transfer, which causing damage with our grenade reduces our melee cooldown. Onto our chest piece for today, we're actually rocking Font of Might, which the seasonal variant is only a 1-cost power mod. I'm also using 2 resist mods, mainly the Thermoshock Plating, which is the solar and arc damage, as well as Void Resistance, just to make sure we cover nearly all our bases. However, if you don't feel like using resistance mods, you can always rock into reserves, make sure that all of your weapons have a lot more ammo. Again, there are a ton of options you can actually use with this build, and I'm going to recommend 2 primarily, and realistically, both of these builds can really benefit from some increased reserve with ammo. Onto our boots, we're using Well of Tenacity. I know it's basically been a staple in every single Void build at this point, but it's literally that good. Picking up a Void Well grants us a period of time where we have 50% damage resistance to all sources in the game. It's absolutely incredible, and it cannot be understated how great this perk is for Void-based builds. I'm also using Absolution, which reduces all of our ability cooldowns each time we pick up an Orb of Power, as well as Better Already, which grants us health regen when we pick up an orb. Then finally, onto our bond for the day, we're actually using Volatile Flow. Essentially what this means is whenever we pick up a Void Elemental Well, it grants our Void weapons volatile rounds. I'm also using Energy Vampirism, which grants us ability energy for our least charged ability whenever we suppress a target. And I'm also using Devouring Depths, which is an incredible perk. Basically, whenever we cast our super while we're critically wounded, or when we have Devour active, it increases the damage that we deal with that super. And given that we're on Warlock, and we intrinsically have Devour for an incredibly long time, and we have multiple ways of actually getting Devour, we're basically always going to have increased damage with our super, and the Suppression Grenade can then also weaken those targets, meaning that we have a boosted super nearly every time we use it against targets that are going to be weakened by our Suppression Grenades. Onto our weapons for the build, you can realistically use any Void weapon you want. Of course, the one that stands out for any kind of ability build is Traveler's Chosen, which, yes, you can absolutely use Traveler's Chosen and just have an overwhelming amount of abilities. Nezrak Sin already makes it so we get basically all of our abilities back within 10 seconds as long as we're consistently getting void kills, and the chaining of abilities is super easy to do. So if you wanted to just throw all of that out the window and use Traveler's Chosen and have absolutely insane ability regen, you totally can. Our first weapon is the new Fortissimo 11 shotgun, and this is a shotgun I've absolutely fallen in love with, primarily because of this role. Osmosis essentially is going to turn this into a void-based weapon, benefiting from all the different mods that you saw earlier, and Demolitionist just is going to get us our grenade back a lot quicker, and we can also reload this just by simply using our grenade, meaning it's absolutely perfect for DPS phases where we might be running low on ammo. Simply throwing a grenade, which then suppresses an enemy, gives you even more ability energy, and then you can actually just reload and keep going with this. Our second weapon is Funnel Web, which if you've been seeing any kind of Destiny 2 news or talk lately in the community, this is literally Recluse. Not only is this thing essentially going to just constantly be shooting, and again, it feels identical to Recluse, so you know it feels incredibly good, but it also has Vest Stringer on it, which whenever we damage an enemy, it has a small chance to reload the magazine and increases our movement speed while aiming down sights. It's a fantastic gun, absolutely shreds mobs, and when this thing has Font of Might and Volatile rounds on top of it, it even shreds majors. I'm not even kidding. This thing is absolutely insane. It is even better than Recluse in my opinion. Get yourself one of these if you haven't already. Our heavy weapon for today is Deathbringer, which is a unique projectile-based rocket launcher. So for those that don't know, you don't actually want to shoot it at enemies, you want to shoot it above them and let the rockets actually fall down on top for increased damage. If you haven't already had the catalyst completed on it, I highly recommend you do it. It increases how quickly Dark Descent reaches its full potential, which means that the rockets don't have to fall for as far to hit their max damage. However, if none of those weapons are really interesting you, I do have a few more combinations. The first is really for boss damage and what is arguably one of the best combinations for boss DPS in the entire game currently, which is Izanagi's and a Lasting Impression auto-loading rocket launcher. Izanagi's, of course, is an incredible DPS monster, although it does chew through special ammo. Hitting that ×4 shot with someone else using Divinity, for example, is also a really good option. And of course, with the layout of this build, it's also equally viable to use with this entire build setup. Like I said though, I personally prefer Deathbringer, but you can totally use Izanagi's, and honestly, if you're looking for something that hits incredibly hard and doesn't rely on a heavy weapon solely for DPS, Izanagi's is the way to go, and it's still incredibly powerful even after its many nerfs throughout the seasons. As far as heavy weapons, if you're not interested in Deathbringer, because I do understand there is some inconsistency with it, Falling Guillotine is actually incredibly good still, and with Font of Might and Volatile rounds, it's even more disgusting, it does even more damage. I can also recommend the Royal Entry Rocket Launcher. Although I don't have the perfect roll, I do have one with Lasting Impression. Autoloading and Lasting Impression is a great roll in this gun, and again, can also benefit from Font of Might and Volatile rounds. Another weapon that I know I've been pushing a lot is Corrective Measure. Again, that Demolitionist Adrenaline Junkie roll is absolutely insane, and you've seen it 3 times now. You know it's good. And really, any void-based heavy or exotic weapon is going to do incredibly well with this. So if you have something that's a favorite of yours that actually fits this build, 100% put it in. Font of Might and Volatile rounds combined into one weapon is just too good to pass up, and can make any weapon, even one that's considerably average, a top-tier machine for ad clear or DPS. But that's pretty much it for the build today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the continued support on these videos. This is by far one of my favorite Warlock builds, and I'm actually working on another one that I think you guys are going to love. So stay tuned for that. Let me know down in the comments any suggestions you might have for future builds, and if you like what you saw today, be sure to like and subscribe for more Destiny 2 content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.